This is not the Egypt you know. This is the story of a forgotten king, a pharaoh so unusual, so unsettling to his own people, that the sands of time tried to erase him entirely. A man who turned his back on ancient gods, who built a new city in the desert, and worshipped only the sun. Some said he was mad, others, something else. This is the story of Akhenaten and the alien god he served. So, get comfortable. Let your body grow heavy, your mind quiet. Close your eyes, if you like, and let the strange calm of ancient Egypt wash over you. This journey will be long, but gentle, strange, but soothing. And somewhere along the Nile, you might just fall asleep. Let us begin, not with a crown, but with a child. A boy born into the great 18th dynasty of Egypt, one of the most powerful families the world had ever seen. His name was Amenhotep IV, and from the moment of his birth, his future was written in stone. He was born to Queen Tai and Pharaoh Amenhotep III, one of the most celebrated kings in Egyptian history. The palace he grew up in was a place of gold, incense, and rituals whispered beneath starry skies. Priests walked in silence, incense curled in the warm desert air, and sacred hymns were sung to gods older than time itself. Egypt, at this time, was at the peak of its glory. The temples of Karnak and Luxor stood tall. Foreign dignitaries brought gifts and tributes. The gods were many: Amun, Osiris, Isis, Horus, each with their temples, their priests, and their sacred duties. Religion wasn't just a part of life, it was life. But young Amenhotep IV was different. Art from his youth is strange. His head is elongated, his eyes wide, his limbs unusually thin. Some scholars believe he had a genetic disorder. Others think it was simply a new artistic style. But whatever the reason, even as a prince, he stood apart. He became pharaoh sometime around 1353 BCE. The death of his father, Amenhotep III, left a powerful kingdom in the hands of this strange young man. The priests expected him to continue tradition, but Amenhotep IV had other plans. Almost immediately, he began making quiet changes. Subtle at first. He started favoring one god above all others, a lesser deity of the sun, known as Aten. Not Ra, the great sun god of the old temples, but Aten, the radiant disk, the visible sun itself. A god with no face, no myths, no stories, just light, just energy, just presence. Then came the shocking moment, when Amenhotep IV changed his name. He would no longer be known as Amenhotep. Amun is satisfied. He erased the name of Amun from his identity entirely. He called himself Akhenaten. It is beneficial to Aten. A quiet rebellion had begun. Temples to Aten were built across Egypt. Massive open-air courtyards bathed in sunlight, with no roof, because Aten was the sun itself. Old statues were defaced. The name of Amun was scratched from temple walls. And in a move that stunned the priesthood, Akhenaten declared that Aten was the only god. In a land of hundreds of deities, this was heresy. But Akhenaten didn't stop there. He withdrew from Thebes, the spiritual heart of Egypt, and announced the construction of a brand new capital, a city built from nothing, in the middle of the desert, a place he named Akhetaten, the horizon of Aten. It would be a city for his god, and for those who believed. No old temples, no old priests, no old gods, just the sun, just Aten, just Akhenaten. As we drift further into this story, let your breath slow. We are entering a different kind of Egypt now, one made not of stone, but of sunbeams and shifting sand. In the next segment, we'll explore the Aten Revolution, how this pharaoh reshaped Egypt's entire religious system, and what it felt like to live beneath a sky ruled by a single, silent god. Let us walk now into the golden light of Akhetaten, the city of the sun, the city of Aten. Carved swiftly from the desert sands, Akhetaten rose like a mirage on the horizon, an entire city built from scratch in just a few short years. The blocks used to build its palaces and homes were small, almost brick-like, allowing for quick construction. The pharaoh had no time to waste. Akhenaten was not just building stone. He was building a new world. This city, what we now call Amarna, was more than a place. It was a vision, a dream of purity, untouched by the shadow of the old gods. Temples here were unlike anything Egypt had seen. Gone were the dark, candlelit sanctuaries of Amun and Osiris. Instead, these were open to the sky, sunlight streaming directly in, striking polished altars and golden offering tables. There were no hidden mysteries, no statues, no elaborate mythology, just one god, one light, Aten. Akhenaten didn't merely believe in Aten, he worshipped in a way no pharaoh ever had. Each morning, he would rise to greet the sun, arms outstretched, chanting poetic hymns to the disk above. He wrote the great hymn to Aten, a beautiful and gentle prayer that described Aten as the giver of life, the warmth that woke flowers and stirred animals from their sleep. He spoke of the world as seen through light, through peace, through order. And yet, there was tension, because Akhenaten had done something no other ruler had dared. He declared himself the sole intermediary between the people and the divine. In the new religion of Atenism, there were no priests, no temple classes, no oracles. Only Akhenaten and his radiant wife, Nefertiti, could commune with Aten. To the people of Egypt, this was deeply unsettling. Religion had always been shared, communal, woven into everyday life. Farmers prayed to Hapi, the river god, to flood the Nile. Mothers prayed to Tauret, goddess of childbirth. Death was not feared because Osiris waited on the other side. But now, all of that was fading. Akhenaten ordered that the names of other gods be removed from inscriptions. Chisels scrape hieroglyphs from sacred tombs. Amun's name, once the mightiest in all of Egypt, was erased. Even in private, worshipping old gods could bring suspicion. Egyptians, who once had shrines in their homes to dozens of deities, now lived under the watchful, all-seeing eye of Aten. And still, the sun shone on. In Akhetaten, life moved in patterns of light. The city's layout faced east, toward the morning sun. Homes and workshops were built with large windows and courtyards, open to the light. Children played in sunbeams. Artisans painted the royal family bathed in golden rays. The art of this period changed, too. Gone were the stiff, idealized images of previous dynasties. Akhenaten's reign brought a new realism, round bellies, long limbs, and intimate family scenes. We see the pharaoh cradling his daughters. We see Nefertiti with a gentle smile. We see the royal couple kissed by Aten's rays, each beam ending in a tiny hand, offering the breath of life. It was tender. It was human. It was, in its own strange way, peaceful. And yet, the kingdom outside Akhetaten was crumbling. The old priesthood, still strong in other cities, grew angry. Allies grew distant. Borders weakened. Foreign threats rose as Akhenaten focused inward, on faith, on Aten, on the light. But here, in the city he built, the sun still rose. And Akhenaten, every morning, lifted his arms to greet it. As you settle further into stillness, let your mind wander through those sun-drenched courtyards. Imagine the warm stone beneath your feet, the gentle heat of early morning, the golden silence of a world ruled by light. In our next segment, we'll walk through daily life in Akhetaten, how the people lived, what they ate, how they worshipped, and what it was like to live in a city built on faith, fear, and sunbeams. Now, let us slow our steps and step gently into the everyday life of Akhetaten, the city modern archaeologists call Amarna. It is early morning. The sun has just peeked over the eastern cliffs, casting long shadows over the desert floor. The first light catches the white limestone buildings, and the city begins to stir. But not loudly. This city is calm, unhurried, made for the god of light, and for those who followed him. The streets of Amarna were clean, straight, and quiet. Unlike the winding alleys of older cities like Thebes or Memphis, here the roads were wide and purposeful. At the heart of the city stood the great temple of the Aten, open to the sky. Every morning, the city's rituals would begin here. Offerings of bread, beer, and incense were brought forth, not by high priests, but by royal decree. It was not just a city for religion, it was a place for living. Scribes recorded daily life on limestone fragments, known today as the Amarna letters. They show us a world of farmers, builders, merchants, and foreign ambassadors. There were gardens, too, lush and carefully managed. Despite the desert surroundings, water was channeled from the Nile to nourish orchards and lotus ponds. Palm trees swayed gently in the heat. The air buzzed softly with cicadas. Inside the homes, we find simplicity. Walls painted white to reflect the heat. Low beds and reed mats. Clay pots holding cool water. Some houses had small altars to Aten. Nothing elaborate, just a disc with rays stretching downward. There were schools for children of the elite. Boys learned to read and write, practicing on bits of broken pottery. Girls often stayed home to learn household tasks, though in some families, women held positions of power and influence. And there were festivals, celebrations of the sun, long, slow processions through the city, with music, flower garlands, and sweet-smelling oil. But always, there was the quiet. Akhetaten was unlike other cities. It was intentional, restrained, and still. A city shaped not just by stone, but by belief. And at the center of that belief was the royal family. Akhenaten and Nefertiti were not just rulers. They were the bridge between the people and the god. On walls across the city, their images appeared again and again, always in pairs, always bathed in the rays of Aten. Their 6 daughters danced beside them. They were not distant monarchs, but living symbols. In one famous carving, we see the family at dinner. Akhenaten holds a child, gently kissing her. Nefertiti offers food. Above them, Aten's rays pour down, ending in tiny hands, blessing each of them. It is intimate, tender, unusual for any royal art, let alone a pharaoh's. And yet, despite the peace within the city, whispers from outside were growing louder. Egypt's empire was under pressure. Enemies pushed at the borders. The powerful priests of Amun waited in the shadows, their influence undiminished. But within Akhetaten, life continued. People worked, worshipped, and watched the sunrise each morning, believing, perhaps, that they were living in a sacred age. That light itself was divine, that their king was chosen, that this was the future. As you drift further into rest, imagine yourself in one of those quiet houses. The soft flicker of oil lamps, the warm hush of evening air, the sand cool underfoot, and outside, the final light of Aten disappearing behind the cliffs. In our final segment, we will explore the end of this vision, how Akhenaten's dream began to collapse, and how Egypt tried to forget him entirely. The sun rises, and the sun sets. Even in a city built for eternal light, the shadows eventually came. The final years of Akhenaten's reign were marked not by glory, but by silence, uncertainty, and disappearance. It is difficult to say exactly what happened. Much of the historical record from this period is fragmented, deliberately erased, swept beneath the sands by those who came after. But what we do know is that Egypt, once so powerful under the early 18th dynasty, had begun to falter. While Akhenaten focused on his god and his capital, foreign powers chipped away at Egypt's influence abroad. Inscriptions from neighboring kingdoms pleaded for help, cries that went unanswered. Cities were lost, alliances frayed, and within Egypt itself, resentment brewed. The priesthood of Amun, still strong in Thebes, had been suppressed but not destroyed. The people, left with only the impersonal rays of the Aten, longed for the comfort of old gods with faces and stories. Aten was abstract, remote, silent, but Osiris offered resurrection. Hathor brought joy. Anubis watched over the dead. Akhenaten's vision had become a solitary one, and when he died, sometime around 1336 BCE, there was no great mourning, no golden tomb discovered, no preserved mummy. His body has never been found, and his name, it was not just forgotten, it was erased. Almost immediately after his death, the city of Akhetaten was abandoned. Its walls crumbled, its streets grew quiet. The desert returned, as it always does, to claim what man leaves behind. And the old gods, they returned, stronger than ever. Amun's temples were restored. The traditional pantheon reasserted itself with speed and fury. It is said that Akhenaten's immediate successor, perhaps a mysterious figure named Smenkhare, perhaps Nefertiti herself under another name, ruled only briefly. Then came a young boy, a boy who would restore the old ways, a boy whose name means living image of Amun. His name was Tutankhamun. Yes, King Tut. He moved the capital back to Thebes. He reinstated the priesthood. And most notably, he removed all traces of Atenism. Akhenaten's images were smashed, his monuments destroyed, his name carved out of stone. In Egyptian belief, to erase a name was to destroy a soul. And so, for over 3,000 years, Akhenaten disappeared, until archaeologists in the 19th century uncovered strange art, unfamiliar names, and the ruins of a sun-washed city in the sands. Akhetaten, the forgotten capital, the pharaoh who worshipped light. And now, as the night deepens, and your thoughts grow soft and still, let the echoes of this forgotten world drift gently around you. Akhenaten's story is not one of victory or legacy, but of mystery. A pharaoh who turned his back on 1,000 gods to follow just one, who built a city in the desert, bathed in light, and watched it fade into silence. He believed in a world shaped by the sun, by warmth, by order, by peace. And though his vision vanished, though his name was carved out of history, still, each morning, the sun rises, and in that quiet light, the memory of Akhenaten stirs once more. So now, rest, breathe gently, let the sands of time settle softly around you, and thank you for joining us on this serene journey through the forgotten past, here with Histories Untold. Good night, and may the stories of the ancient world watch over your dreams.